It has now been 5 years to the day since the Memorial tornadoes ravaged parts of the Miami Valley. This once-in-a-generation EF4 tornado was on the ground for a total of 19 miles and 32 minutes. This is the personal stories of the first responders that have never been told before. They risked their lives that night to save ours. This is Through Their Eyes, the Unsung Heroes. Even the most devastating stories have a beginning. On Memorial Day, May 27, 2019, that beginning took place in Brookville, Ohio.
We had just returned from our camping trip, my daughter and I.
Brookville Police Chief Doug Jerome returned home just before 10:30 that night from a seemingly normal holiday spent with family and friends. But within 10 minutes, things turned dark.
As we're standing here in the side yard, we look in the sky, and I told my daughter, I said, I've never seen lightning look like this before.
They didn't know then, but this was the beginning of an EF4 tornado that would carve a 19-mile path, terrorizing nearly half a dozen communities across the Miami Valley in just 32 minutes. The storm now on the western side of the city and moving fast.
The winds in this storm could be over 100 miles an hour. You need to be in your safe spot right now. You have to be.
By 10:44, an EF2 tornado was pounding the city of Brookville. Winds more than 100 miles an hour.
We heard the things hitting the roof. I mean, just lots of things hitting the roof. Hear the wind. Felt like the roof was lifting up. Then felt, all the lights went out, all the power went out, and we knew something had happened.
Debris being thrown 4 miles into the atmosphere, and 4 minutes later, it intensified into a destructive EF3 with winds over 130 miles per hour. Meanwhile, on the western side of town,
you can even see the live electric wires coming down and sparking on the ground.
The destruction caught on Brookville High School surveillance cameras.
You see the lights flash as the school loses power, and then you see just a whirlwind of debris.
By 10:52 p.m., the terror was over for Brookville, but the horror of what it left behind was only starting to be discovered.
Within seconds, my phone starts ringing. Our officer's on duty says, Chief, we have a house in this road, a business in this road. We took a direct hit. And I basically said, sweetie, Dad's going to be at work for about the next week. And I knew it was bad.
The calls for help painting a picture of just how bad it was.
911, what is the address of your emergency?
Ow! Oh my God!
Try to get to safety here, okay? What's going on there?
I think we have a tornado and the whole entire neighborhood is completely destroyed.
By now, Chief Jerome and other first responders were boots on the ground.
The school was one of the first places I came to, and as I drove around the back, I could tell from the front that the doors were smashed in because the tornado had come this direction.
And it was pitch black in here, and we thought we were good, so he started walking down the hallway, and I shined my light in here, and I was like, you better come back and look at this.
The ceiling of the room was completely, all the insulation, everything was down. It was black up there, and then after a while you realized that the black was the roof was missing, and we were looking straight through to the sky. It came through with a force. Never seen anything like it.
The force didn't only hit the high school.
It just went straight down the street.
So Chief Jerome and his team of first responders rushed to the neighborhood to help. What they found was indescribable. When
you watch the news and see damage from a tornado, the significance of it does not even compare until you see it in person. I've got houses that are gone. I've got cars flipped up in other driveways into other houses that didn't belong. I mean, it just literally picked up cars and threw them. You've got families back here. You've got people that have just lost everything. They've lost, all their personal belongings, their pictures, keepsakes.
As Brookville began the search for survivors.
This is marching eastward towards a very populated area.
At 10:56 p.m., the tornado was already wreaking havoc on another community and moving east at 35 miles per hour.
Hello.
Hello, this is 911. We received a call from this number. Is there an emergency?
Yeah, my house got hit by a tornado. I don't have a house left.
In 3 minutes' time, it's strengthened.
Everything's gone.
Winds now over 170 miles an hour.
My walls are gone and my roof is gone.
Its reach a half-mile wide. Now an EF4 and nearly at its peak at 10:57 p.m., it destroys a neighborhood just 7 miles down the road.
Confirmed large and dangerous tornado on the ground near Trotwood.
Hello?
This is 911. We just got a call from this number. Are you guys okay?
Our entire ceiling just fell in. We're trapped in with children.
Where are you?
At Woodland Hills apartment.
Okay, it's the Westbrook Apartments in Trotwood.
Yes, ma'am. The whole building is getting ripped apart right now.
In the flashes of the lightning and the power surges that were happening because of the tornado, we actually saw the tornado going in behind KFC, and you could see the debris flying up into the air.
Trotwood Fire Chief Robert Hackey and his captain David Downey watched as the now violent storm carved a path through their city, both caught in the catastrophe but thinking clearly.
We need to be in the path where it was to start assessing the damage and helping those people. I diverted and went into the Westbrook Village apartment complex, which is where I knew the roof had come off the building, and started searching those buildings.
You know, the first house I came to in Westbrook Village, I heard a lady hollering. So I made entry into the house. I go up the stairs, I make immediate left, and that's just open air. There's no roof, half the wall's missing, and she opens up her bedroom door and she's like, what just happened?
Hello, this is 911.
Hello, my roof just came in.
More than 20 minutes away and several miles south in Miamisburg, a storm of its own was brewing inside the Montgomery County Dispatch Center.
And it got crazy and weird and scary and all the above.
Me and my kids are upstairs in the house. I don't know if I'm going to make it to the basement. Everything is falling down on us.
Okay, can you get to the basement?
I don't know. When we were trying to go down there, everything just fell on top of us.
Okay, so like your ceiling is falling down on top of you?
Yes.
I'm going to stay on the phone with you as long as I can, but we have a lot of 911 calls coming in, okay? But I'm going to help you the best I can.
And I heard the firemen coming over the radio because the damage was being reported, and they were going out to the apartment complex, especially in Trotwood and Clayton. And the voice of the firemen on the radio was just so... I've never heard them sound so urgent in my life.
In the same moment, about 3 miles from where those 911 calls for help were happening, a neighborhood behind the Old Salem Mall is now feeling the storm's power. It's now 11 p.m.
It was like the wind was coming through the house.
Trotwood's now Mayor Yvette Page hid in her bathroom with her son and 2 young grandsons.
We put them in the tub, and then the 3 of us and my son stood on the door because the door kept pushing like this. Like this, we could feel it like that. At that time, all I was doing was praying. Because, you know, when all else fails, you gotta rely on him, and he did. He protected us that night.
Less than a minute later, the horror was over at Yvette's home. By 11:02, the now EF4 tornado left the city of Trotwood.
After the tornado goes through, and the only thing you hear is gas leak, or you just hear hissing. We were able to get all the gas shut off to the area, and then there was nothing. You could hear a pin drop.
In that silence, unexpected heroes from the Public Works Department in Trotwood got the call for help and stepped up, clearing the way for life-saving measures.
Our concern is how could we get help fast? And we knew nobody could get there if the roads wasn't open. So we went into action and tried to do the best we could in cleaning the roads so fire could get in there, police could get in there, everybody that needed out could get out.
As survivors started to leave, first responders describe it like a scene out of a movie.
People walking down the street, carrying what little belongings they had with their kids, their pets. It sort of reminds you of a scene from Walking Dead. You know, nobody knew where to go or what to do. They just knew they couldn't stay where they were.
As Trotwood tried to pull themselves together,
there is serious concern with this. Without a doubt. The National Weather Service, as I mentioned a moment ago, is saying potentially catastrophic damage from a tornado here in Montgomery County, headed for I-75.
Harrison Township had only moments to seek shelter.
Headed for you in Harrison Township, about to hit, as a matter of fact, in Harrison Township.
At 11:03 p.m., the EF4 tornado reached its peak, throwing debris 5 miles into the atmosphere and wrecking a third Miami Valley community. Harrison Township is just a mile and a half from the city of Trotwood. The now EF4 massive violent tornado with winds over 170 miles per hour reaching its peak intensity as it hits Harrison Township at 11:03 p.m.
All of these buildings were pretty much leveled. There was so much destruction, so much damage.
The tornado raced through the township within 3 minutes, slashing a path from the western portion of the Northridge neighborhood down North Dixie Drive and across Interstate 75. Now crews are rushing to the scene. Witnesses describe what they saw and felt to our reporters when the tornado ripped through the River's Edge apartments on Riverside Drive.
And I heard the rain coming, and then it starts was hailing real hard, and I was laying in my bed watching TV, and then the building started trembling. So I went into the bathroom and got on the floor until everything stopped.
What kind of sense can you make of this?
There is no sense to make of it. We were blessed.
As survivors tell their story, crews are searching for those who may be trapped.
The search and rescue SUVs have showed up here. They are now entering that building back there. You can see now the firefighters, the search and rescue teams entering these buildings. We can only assume that they are looking for people who were not able to make it out of this apartment complex.
Fire and rescue not the only ones desperately searching for survivors in Harrison Township. Members of Ohio Task Force 1 were deployed to help.
The likelihood for survival is going to go down as each minute clicks by on the tide.
And as time ticks, crews get to work.
We just try to take every single one of these doors, pry them open.
It was a mix of physical searches from rescue workers, canine searches from our canine handlers, and our heavy equipment personnel that were able to move in and just start to walk building to building. We were positive that we were going to start to come upon either trapped and injured or trapped and deceased. And the more buildings that were cleared, the more buildings that were identified as being empty, it was really just amazement.
Just across the river and next to Interstate 75, within walking distance from the apartments, another dramatic scene is unfolding.
You can see how this front wall is completely blown out.
That's when it hit me, because obviously as we drive through here, you'll see the businesses that I had taken calls at for years and years are no longer here. The plaza that so many people had, done business in, ate at. We had a club here that many people throughout Montgomery County had visited as they were turning older. And obviously it's gone.
Montgomery County Sheriff Rob Streck and his team digging through the wreckage in a plat near I-75 off Wagner Ford Road. What did you see?
Literally, it was pure destruction. Cars were damaged, trees were down on cars, the houses were torn apart.
We searched every single building, every single structure, both in Harrison and across this path, because just right there at the river, the city of Dayton actually picks up, but there was a large apartment building or apartment complex back there too that was destroyed, and we took care of handling all that too, because it was just one direct path.
Harrison Township Fire and Montgomery County Sheriff's Office working together.
It was just really terrifying, because you really don't know if everybody's out of their houses, how many people were supposed to be in each house.
Saying a prayer, but no one truly believing what they're seeing with their own eyes.
You start going through all these buildings and you start going through all these homes, and they're outside, or you're talking to them, and it's, I've got my leg hurts, or, hey, I twisted my ankle, or hey, I've got a cut, and you're like, you're looking at them and just completely blown away. You're like, you should be dead right now.
As Harrison Township first responders realized their community survived what should have been a mass casualty event, the city of Dayton's story,
there's a tornado on the ground,
was just beginning.
It continues to be on the ground. It's going to cause more damage. it is going to cause more damage as it heads eastward.
911, what is the address of your emergency?
I'm in the bathroom upstairs. The roof is gone. I'm scared to move.
The tornado reaches the northern part of the city of Dayton by 11:06 p.m.
We're upstairs, like we went to the only bathroom we have, and we're sitting in the...
This still frame from an ODOT camera captures the beast as it marched its way across I-75.
We're scared to move because everything blew up. It's collapsed.
And into a heavily populated area.
It's kind of overwhelming. It's not something we train for regularly.
Major Christopher Molson from the Dayton Police Department drove up the interstate, not realizing what he was about to encounter.
As I was coming up 75 and got north of Dayton, I started to see a debris field near Stanley Avenue. ODOT was already clearing 75. Whoever thought of that was genius in the moment, because being able to get first responders, emergency services to these areas, there was no way I would have gotten through 75 without the trucks. I got in behind them as they were clearing it out. They cleared away all the way up until I could get to Foxton Courts. So I got there and I had that same moment. I mean, the apartment complex is destroyed. It was just amazing to see the destruction that was done. I've never been in a war zone or anything, but that would be my picture of it. It looked like the whole apartment complex just blew up. There was roofs and personal items and stuff scattered for hundreds and hundreds of feet across the road and everywhere. It was just destruction that I've never seen before.
At the same time, not even 4 miles south.
We was watching the news and they said that it was coming from Trotwood and then it was downtown. And since I live off of Main and Philadelphia, that's when we took shelter, and we can hear it. You heard it.
It was kind of overwhelming. It was so much destruction.
Old North Dayton was under attack.
Lots of destruction. A lot of shocked residents. They'd just been through a horrific, tornadic event. And I think, so many of us, if you're in that situation, you really don't know what to do at that time. You're looking around, your house is destroyed. Where do you start?
First responders started with the basics, what they're trained to do.
We spent a lot of the early hours clearing structures. We had to make sure there was no one in there. We checked 5,600 structures in the city in the first 12 hours.
At the same time, focusing on safety.
With the down power lines and all the structure being destroyed, there's so many dangers there. One of our incident commanders quickly called for some RTA buses to come for some temporary shelter.
Then the human element kicked in.
Are you okay? Is everybody accounted for in the structure?
Finally coming to the conclusion.
We're so fortunate that we didn't have, fatalities and just so many more serious injuries.
But as the city of Dayton begins to breathe again, the storm isn't done with the Miami Valley just yet.
So this is 675 at Colonel Glenn. Look how much it's shaking here. So we've got at least some pretty strong wind. Looks like we may have just lost it there.
3 minutes, 11:12 p.m. after it destroyed Old North Dayton.
Those of you in Beavercreek, this is headed your way as well.
The tornado weakening, but never losing focus. It turned its attention to a whole new community in a whole new county.
Fairfield Mall. This is headed for the Fairfield Mall, which is located in this area right here. That's the Fairfield Mall.
The EF3 tornado traveled down North Fairfield Road and headed straight towards Beavercreek Township Fire Station 63.
Another firefighter knocked on my door, like, "Hey, we need to seek shelter." And I'm like, "For what?" And they was like, it's a tornado about to hit us. So I ran out my bunk room, and about the time that I made it into the day room, the whole building pressurized. It's like the whole building was breathing. It was like, that's what it felt like, just breathing in on you. The door was flapping.
What,
the
this door here? Oh, the garage door.
So it was flapping back and forth, and Lieutenant Clark was like, "There's an officer out there trying to get in." He actually was like playing hopscotch, trying to get back and forth into the, timing it, when can I come through? So he ran through the bay, he came in here, and I'll never forget the look that he had on his face. Our lieutenant was asking him questions, but he couldn't answer. As fast as that happened, it stopped. And then once it stopped, that's when we went out there, and our babies tore up.
Hearing that Station 3 had been hit was a very big concern of mine to make sure the crews at Station 63 were okay.
Beavercreek Township Division Fire Chief Scott Dorston rushed to check on his men.
I had to park up there and start walking down. The power lines were down and they were all the way into our apron. So as I was walking down, I stopped at each one of these houses and If there was anybody out, I checked and made sure they were okay. Pushed one of the garage doors aside, got in, started talking to the crews.
With no one hurt at the fire station, the crew was busy assessing the damage to their home away from home.
No trap in your initial response house. We're just doing damage control and evacuation of residences.
This garage door was on top of the engine, so we couldn't get the engine out.
So the firefighters grabbed their gear and left on foot.
We knocked on everybody's door, tried to see if they need any help, tried to see if anybody was there, and then we marked the ground. You will mark it like with a can of spray paint so that when somebody else came by, they know that this house been checked.
Across town.
We loaded most of the plow trucks up with chainsaws.
It was like unbelievable. Just all the damage and debris that was on the road.
A lot of trees down, huge trees, good 40, 50 foot tall, all across the road, just trying to push them out of the way, let the EMS and firefighters get into everybody, try to get them out of their house.
I was in a plow truck pushing, we pushed a couple cars off the road.
Once we got rolling into it, we just got into a system of cutting and pushing, and it just eventually made our way back to the back and got people out of their houses.
A lot of people needed help, and we needed to be there for them.
Beavercreek Police Department Captain Scott Molnar arriving in the Garden View neighborhood.
They were trying to relay over the radio the damage that they saw, and it was unbelievable. We couldn't hardly believe what we were hearing. I just immediately came to the scene knowing that it was bad.
As crews cut and plowed their way through the remnants of so many people's lives.
Everything fell into place as far as training and reacting and doing what we needed to do to help as many people as we could.
They began to breathe easier.
It's a miracle, the devastation that we saw, that we didn't lose any life.
But knowing the cleanup and healing for hundreds of thousands was only just beginning. Daylight hits the Miami Valley on Tuesday, May 28th, 2019.
The only way to describe it, it looked like a bomb went off.
Wow, we really went through something here.
Is that a home?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That was just leveled?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're just tuning in this morning, this is from our drone. We're just now, this is live. This is happening right now. And we're just now getting these images into the newsroom. So we're seeing this for the very first time, just like you're seeing it for the very first time this morning. So please excuse us if we tend to get a little, I guess, shocked,
Yeah.
choked up, maybe a little speechless.
You know, you can use all kinds of words, but it really was a miracle.
When you saw the damage that we sustained, it's like, how did we not? So, obviously everybody that was in their shelters was praying to a higher power above, and their prayers were all answered because we came through it unscathed.
Nearly unscathed. Not on the EF4 tornado's path, but in one of the 15 tornadoes that tore through the Miami Valley that night, a man lost his life. He died in the EF3 tornado that hit Salina, a family and a community forever changed by Mother Nature's unrelenting power, even now, 5 years later.
You couldn't see all the way to the west over there because of the trees. There's still vacant lots. That's a brand new home. They're still building new homes here 5 years later.
I mean, this is crazy. This was a driveway to somebody's house.
Yeah, it was. And that house, I remember simply because these two plots of land were absolutely demolished. The house was literally flat.
You went from seeing a building that you had drove by a million times, or a firehouse that I worked in for decades, to it's just gone.
The tornado did so much damage, specifically in this area we're in now in Old North Dayton. You see a lot of vacant lots now where there used to be businesses and houses. This used to be Frito-Lay building, and as you can see, it's no longer standing.
Significant landmarks forever lost.
What does Harrow Arena signify? What does this mean to you?
Harrow Arena, there was a lot of events taking place at Harrow, and people 50, 60-year-old knew what took place in Harrow. There was a lot of great events at Harrow. Harrow kind of made this area. So that's why it was a little sentimental. Everybody thought Harrow would never leave. It would always be there.
But what was there in the hours, days, and weeks after was something every first responder remembers to this day.
There was a flood from the community coming to help in all ways that they could. There were people showing up in pickup trucks going, hey, we'll get debris out of the road. We'll clean up the fallen tree or whatever needs to be done. People were showing up with food. People had cooked meals and were bringing them out to first responders and other helpers. And it was amazing because there was really no call for that or no push out.
There's no words for it. There really is no words for it. We have brothers and sisters that help us, and
You know, it's just one big family. The city came together, you know, residents came together, helped each other out.
The communities that came in and helped us, you know, I'll never forget that because we needed them and they came. So we're grateful for that.
It was amazing how many of our kids showed up to help us clear debris outside, to get things picked up. We just had teams of kids that showed up to help get things back on track in a time of, you know, catastrophe. When people band together, you know, you can't sit back and wait for somebody else to come in and take care of you. You have to band together as a community and say, okay, what do we got to do to get back where we want to be?
As the community showed up to support one another and thank the heroes who stepped up to the call that night.
I truly believe, although that was a tragic event, it just makes you better afterwards to handle the next thing.
First responders are reminded of why they choose to do what they do.
For police officers, it's not always all about chasing down the bad guys and putting them in jail. It's about trying to have a positive effect on somebody's life that you may not even know or you may not ever meet. For me, this is what it's about, is doing the things to help people in their worst moment and when they need it the most.
That's what we train for. That's what you love to do. That's why you're in the profession. So you just do it.
There's a quote I always go, if it's not me, then who? You know, if I don't step up and do it, who's going to step up and provide that protection and that help and the resources that night? We're the ones they call first. So, you know, that's my job. That's what I love to do.
And when you love something, it can sometimes make even the most destructive stories have an ending that brings hope and new beginnings. In all, nearly 6,000 homes and 400 businesses were damaged. 1,200 of those homes were damaged beyond repair. Now, we want to take a moment and thank all the first responders. Without their willingness to share their personal experiences, we wouldn't have been able to do this. And a special thanks to everyone who shared pictures and videos so we could tell the story through their eyes.